This is your Lake of the Ozarks fishing report for the upper lake area, upper Osage area. Today is September 7, 2016. This report is courtesy of Joe's Lake Ozark Guide Service. The water conditions right now, the lake level is about 1 foot below the full pool, although they are currently dropping the lake because we're in basically a 2-day heat wave of temperatures in the low 90s, heat indexes around 100 or just over 100. So they're generating a little bit more water. So we're expecting the water level to drop about 1 foot in a 2-day period here because of the heat. But with the impending rain that we have coming up this weekend, I'm sure the water level will get right back up to where it has been, and it shouldn't move the fish out or move them around too much. The water temperature is hanging around 80, high 70s, probably going to go up a little bit into the 80s because of this heat, but it's really not going to move any that I think is going to affect the fish. But the good thing about the water temperature right now is that it is in a downward direction as we move a little bit farther into fall. And then the water color is a good color. It's a stained color here in the upper Osage, a little bit clearer when you get out into the main lake area, but the water level and water colors just perfect for this time of year. All right, the last video I did that said we were kind of heading into the fall pattern. We're in the fall pattern right now in the upper Osage. We're catching fish in the back of the creeks. We're catching fish on points, on windy docks, and the fish have now moved on to the main lake flats, and we're starting to get a pretty good bite on the main lake flats. And some of those fish right now, you're not catching as many fish out there, but the fish we're seem to be catching seem to be a little bit bigger on the flats than they are in the other areas. So let me show you some lures that we're using to catch fish on those areas. Anytime we're fishing the back of the creeks and the main lake flats, I like to throw a jig of some kind. This is a crocodiler jig. I've showed this to you before. One of the things lures I like to throw around the docks and the flats and in the back of the creeks is this G-lock head made by Crocodiler. Has the wire keeper on the back. If you look at my last video, you'll see that, how to rig it. And then I have a beaver style made by Missile Bait, a D-bomb bait that I like to pitch in and around the docks, in the back of the creeks, and out on the flats. Now, I've been emailed a couple questions about what color jigs do I use or what color do I like to use. When I'm pitching these lures in and around the docks, I'm trying to pitch into the opening between the flotation devices of the docks. So I'm pitching back in those real dark areas, and so I'm going to use a darker lure. So that's why I'm using this lure. The jig head is black, and the actual beaver style bait is, I think it's called a red neon. Basically it's a black plastic with the red metal flake in it. And because I'm pitching a lure into the dark areas, I want to use a dark lure. So black and blue is a good choice, solid black's a good choice. Again, I would use a lure and color that you have confidence in, and then go fish it. That way, if you have the bait that you have confidence in, then you're fishing, focusing on the fish, and you're not worrying about, is this the right color, is this the right size, is this the right bait. You know, you can go to these areas and catch fish on worms, you can use creature baits. I would just pitch a lure that you are comfortable pitching, the weight is comfortable for you to pitch with, and then go fish it. That's the main thing, go fish it. Out on the flats, I also, because I'm fishing and swimming my lure along the dock foam, and I'm not really letting it sink down into brush and stuff, I love to fish these tubes. It has an exposed hook. There's no weed guard on the tube, kind of like the old Bobby Garland gets it. This one's on a 1/4 ounce head. I just slide it up inside the tube. Again, it's a dark tube. You can use a green pumpkin is a good color. White's a good color to emulate your shad. I like to use these dark colors because I'm going to pitch it in and around. And when you're out there fishing on the main lake flats, it's a little bit windier at times. Sometimes there's boat traffic. The boat's going to rock a little bit. So sometimes it may be a little difficult to detect a bite. That's why I like to use the open hook, because I don't have to really detect the bite to the point that I have to set the hook. I can just kind of rear back and reel, and this light wire hook will go right through the fish's mouth. So that's another good choice to use out on the flats mainly. When I fish in the back of the creeks, I'm mainly going to use this other lure that has a weed guard on, like the jig. Low light conditions, early in the morning on those flats, you can use topwater lures. Buzzbait's a great search lure to use in the flats in the back of these creeks. There's isolated logs that get kind of floating and they get stuck on the bottom, and these bass will kind of hang out on these logs as the shad schools are swimming by, and then they'll run out and get them a mouthful. In low light conditions, these fish, they'll get out and they'll roam these flats and these open areas. So buzzbait's a really good lure to use. It's a big fish bait for one, and two, you can cover a lot of water. I like to throw a spook. I'll throw the spook more at a specific target or object. If I see a big rock, if I see a log, I'm more liable to throw the spook over it, whereas if I'm just wanting to cover some ground, I'll a lot of times throw the buzzbait. And then another lure you can use, it's kind of fun fishing out on the main lake and the flats and stuff, you can use a fluke. Fluke's a good lure to use around the docks. It looks like a shad, swimming by. And again, one of my earlier videos, I showed you how to put I put a treble hook trailer on the hook of the fluke, and it just kind of slides up down. So sometimes it's hard to hook some fish on the fluke. You'll lose some. That trailer hook will pick up some of those fish that you don't always see. This morning when we were out, we found some schooling fish on a point, and so we started throwing some 10-inch worms on a rocky point down on the bottom, about 8 to 10 to 12 foot deep, and we caught a couple 3-pounders doing that. So the summer bite, as far as that goes, as far as biting 10-inch worms and stuff, that bite's still out there. I'm sure you can still catch fish in the brush piles. I know down the lake they're doing that. Up the lake, I've been spending more time just fishing the main lake flats, fishing back of the creeks, and then fishing those windy docks out on the main lake. And the windy docks out on the main lake, we're catching mainly Kentuckies. I like to pitch that tube again along those. Square bill crankbait. I'll throw a square bill crankbait on those docks and catch a lot. It can catch some pretty good 2 and 3 pound Kentuckies, and every now and then you'll catch a 4 pound, 3 and 4 pound largemouth on those. But when you're fishing those docks out there, you want to fish on either the shady side, the windy side, or the current side. And if you get any two of those three variables, working for you at the same time, then you want to fish that side. And after you fish 2 or 3 docks, you'll start figuring out the pattern of how they're going to lay on that particular bluff bank you're on, or that stretch of docks you're fishing. They'll usually, if you catch one on the left side as you're coming in, the rest of them are also going to be probably caught on the left side as they move in. Like I said, we've got big concentrations in the back of the creeks right now. We're getting big concentrations of shad on main lake flats here in the upper lake area. Fishing's pretty good right now in the upper lake area. The fish are definitely shallow. You can still, go to lay down logs on the creek channel banks and do that. Fish have kind of moved almost out of their summer haunts, I would say, and are spread out on these flats. So get you some of these lures, head to these flats. The windy flats seem to be more aggressive, more active fish on those than the ones if there's no wind blowing on them. So figure out which way the wind's blowing, find flats on that side of the bank, and go in there and fish those flats. I'm sure you'll probably have some success. So next report I do, I'll kind of give you more of a how we're gearing up towards the Big Bass Bash, which will be occurring here at the end of this month, 1st of October. And give the anglers more of an update on conditions of what's going on here in the Upper Osage. Thank you.